Hello, everyone. I welcome you all for the Mobile Device Manageability Training Program. Due to this pandemic outbreak, I believe still there are many states which are on lockdown, and we might have audience who are connected to this webinar from the home network. Even I'm presenting this webinar from my home. In case if you face any issues with the audio, you can always comment in the chat section. Our panel can notify me. And I welcome you all again for the Mobile Device Manageability Training Program. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ruben Karthik, and I'm associated with ManageEngine for the past 6 years. I do the training and implementation for the entire endpoint management solutions. And let's see what we have in the training schedule. So it's a 3-week series, and we are in the first week of the training program, where we are going to see about how we can onboard your devices into the MDM management scope, and how we can provision basic corporate policies for the devices which has been added into product UI. And next week, we'll see about how we can install, uninstall, and lock down the devices with certain applications, and also how we can configure certain corporate policies to your mobile devices. And in the final week of the training program, we will see how you can leverage and facilitate the features related to Windows 10 and MacBooks. So in case if you wish to revisit these training program or to check the question and answers discussed during the training, you can always visit below mentioned URL. And all the registered participants will also get the recorded training video once after the webinar is over. Now let's see what we have for the training agenda today. So first of all, I'm going to give you the overview of mobile device management. So this is for the evaluators or the prospects who doesn't know about our MDM. I'm going to give them a quick introduction about it and the architecture it follows and the ports required to manage the devices. And also I'll explain how does an MDM manage the end devices using our product. That is what I'll cover in the first part of the training. Followed by, we'll see how you can enroll the devices which are already in use, how you can onboard them into the management scope. And also, what if in case if your organization purchase new devices and how we can onboard that type of devices easily using our MDM solution. So followed by, we'll also see how you can push certain corporate configuration like passcode policies or how you can secure the corporate data on the personal employees' own devices using our product. So, and followed by, we'll also see how we can restrict the unauthorized access to your corporate email, the exchange accounts. And finally, I'll also share certain real-time scenarios which I have faced in my support experience. A lot of customers would have reported on those behaviors. I'll also share their best solutions for such scenarios. So in case if you, the viewers, have any questions related to MDM, please feel free to post them in the chat section. Our expert panel can able to answer your questions then and there. So first, like I've said, let's see the overview of mobile device management solution. So these are the list of supported operating systems and the device types which can be managed using our MDM solution. So for iOS, you'll be able to manage iPhones, iPad, MacBooks, and Apple TVs can be managed within the MDM. And for Android, it is possible to manage Android mobile phones and tablets. And for Windows, you can manage Windows device, Windows tablets, Surface Hub, and laptops. And for Chromebooks can also be managed within the MDM itself. And the mobile device management solution in ManageEngine is available in 3 flavors. One, as a part of Desktop Central, which is the complete unified management solution. And in case if you are a customer or a prospect who's looking only for the standalone MDM, only to manage the devices, no computers and no servers and no Linux machines, then we also offer the standalone MDM, which is available on both on-premise and cloud. And if we have any audience with who's a service provider who wish to manage devices from different customers, then we also offer MDM MSP under ManageEngine, which is available on both on-premise and cloud. And we understand it's not easy or it's not possible to just manage the entire organization with just one application. So we offer the integration with other help desk solutions like ManageEngine Service Desk Plus, which is our in-house help desk tool, followed by you can also integrate your MDM with Spiceworks, Jira Service Desk, Zendesk Support, and ServiceNow. And MDM can also be integrated with the client relationship management software, which is available in Zoho, called Zoho CRM, and an app development software called Zoho Creator. So these are the integrations which we support within the MDM. In case if you're looking anything outside the box, you always have the below your link to refer the API through which you can perform a seamless integration. All right, let's look at the mobile device manager plus architecture. So when it comes to managing a device, there are three major components which is involved. One, the MDM server. Second components are the notification services. And third is the end device itself. So in order to explain or make you understand about the architecture in an easy way, let's take an example that I wish to find out a location of my employee's iPhone. So what I'll do from the MDM console, I'll initiate a command called locate device, which this command will pass on to the notification service. So in this case, if it's an Apple iPhone, the Apple push notification service will wake up the device using the serial number, which will contact the MDM server to know what configuration or what process to be performed. And if it's for locating the device, it fetches the coordinates and posts the status to MDM server, which I can see it in the UI. So when it comes to the workflow or the architecture of MDM, it is always this way. So the MDM server will initiate a command, which will go to the notification services. In case for Android, it's a Firebase cloud messaging service, which will wake up the device. And for Windows, it will be WNS, Windows Notification Service. And the end device will communicate to the server, process those informations, or even if it is for an app deployment, this is how the workflow will be, and the status will be seen on the MDM console. And in case if you are an on-premise customers where you wish to host the solution in-house, then these are the list of ports which you have to allow within your network. So for device to server communication, it is 9383. And for mobile device manager plus server to notification services, which will go through 443. And the device notification service, these are the list of ports. In case if you wish to know about the inbound and outbound port information, you can always visit the below mentioned link. All right. So as we saw, this architecture follows the client and server model. So a command will be initiated from the server, and the notification service will wake up the device, which will process those information. So when it comes to managing the end device, you need to have the MDM app on the Android device especially. But when it comes to iOS, Windows, or Chromebooks, you don't necessarily need to install the MDM app. We leverage the native OS client, the MDM client, which is available on the operating system to install the MDM profile. So for iOS, Windows, or Chromebook, you don't need to install the app. You'll invoke the MDM profile on the devices to manage. But in case of Android devices, you need to install the MDM app. So that is what we will see in this session today, how to enroll the devices and what are the different types we have. So before I take you to the procedures or the workflow of enrollment, let me take you to the product console and show you what are the tabs available and what are the features you can avail within the MDM solution. So this is what the Desktop Central UI looks like, and MDM is a part of Desktop Central. So where you can also do the legacy management of computers like patching, application deployment, and imaging. Along with that, you'll also be able to manage mobile devices and do some modern management activities on Windows 10 laptops and MacBooks too. And this is how the UI looks like for the standalone MDM solution. And under the Home tab, you can see certain graphical representation which shows about what type of devices you have, how many smartphones and how many tablets, and what type of devices, what platforms devices you own. And even if there are multiple technicians who are going to manage this MDM solution, you get to see the audit log informations too. So which technician invoked what actions or what command on the device can also be seen under the audit log information. And if you click on the count, this automatically takes you to the reports, which shows I've just clicked on the OS report. So this is going to give me what are the iOS devices I managed using our MDM solution. And so this is what the home tab looks like. And under device management, you'll be able to see the list of profiles which you can create for the users and deploy, or even this would be helpful for deploying applications or taking remote control on the mobile devices. So mostly you might be playing around with this particular tab for creating configurations and application deployment to your mobile devices. And inventory is the asset management tab where you can see what are the devices you manage and what are the details what are the asset informations you wish to see on the devices can be seen under the inventory section. And enrollment is what we're going to see in today's topic. And there are a lot of different type of enrollments which we have, which I'll also explain in the upcoming slides. And under reports tab, you'll be able to see the certain predefined reports. Like say, if you wish to find out what are the jailbroken devices being managed or been added to the product, you have a report for it. And in case if you wish to see what are the device have this particular Zoom meeting application installed on them, likewise, you do have certain predefined reports. And in case if you wish to pull out a report based on your requirement, we also support query reports, which you can make use of it. At the same time, you can also schedule reports on a daily or a weekly basis based on your requirement. And under admin tab, you can add technicians, define roles to the technicians, and also if you wish to rebrand the ManageEngine logo, you have the option under the admin section. And the basic administrative activities like integration, server migration, so all such activities can be done from this admin tab. So this is just like a quick walkthrough about what are the tabs and what are the modules we have under MDM. Now let's get into the topic. So in order to enroll the device, let me consider myself, I belong to an organization called Zilker, and I have to add the devices which are already in use and which are the new devices. Let's segregate the enrollment procedure into two. So for the devices which are already in use, we have a separate mode of enrollment procedure. And for the new devices, you have another set of procedures to follow. So first, let's go with the devices which are already in use. So for that, it can be done by sending an email invitation. So as an admin, you can send email invitations to the users who can accept and add the MDM profile or MDM app on the device. And we also have another way of enrollment called self-enrollment, where the users can bring their own devices into the management scope. It's like the OD concept. That is what we're going to see in the first session about the enrollment. So the benefits of adding the devices via email invite or self-enrollment is it isolates the personal and corporate application separately. So when you add a device through email invitation or self-enrollment, it creates a corporate space within this device. So a corporate container will be created through which you can distribute application and documents which can only be seen within the corporate space. Another benefit is you can also restrict sharing the corporate data within the same device itself. From sharing to from the managed application to the personal application can also be restricted, and it also prevent unauthorized access outside the device. Say like even if you wish to block the USB connections or Wi-Fi or AirDrop can also be restricted when you enroll the devices. So that's what we'll be covering in the upcoming slides too. But these are certain benefits of adding the devices through email invitation or self-enrollment, where it creates a corporate space within the employee's own phone. So first, this is the diagrammatic workflow for the email invite enrollment. So let's say an admin sends the invite, the users can accept the invitation, scan the QR code, or access the enrollment URL to feed the information and register the devices with our MDM. So let me take you to the product console to show you how you can send an email invitation to the users for adding the devices into the product scope. So for that, I'll go to enrollment section. So you can see enroll tab devices here. So these are the list of devices which I manage. So you will have three sections here: managed, staged, and enrollment pending, which you'll come to know in the upcoming session. So you'll understand what is meant by enrollment pending and what is meant by stage. And now for the email invitation, I can choose enroll devices. I can either go with Apple iOS or Android. And as a prerequisite to manage an Apple device, you need to have the APNS certificate uploaded in our product. So APNS certificate is mandatory to manage any Apple device, either iPhone or iPad or MacBook. You need to have the certificates uploaded here. So, I've already imported the certificates into my MDM console in case if this is a fresh setup, if you, the audience, are using any of the fresh MDM solution, then you can go, this is how the UI looks like under Enrollment tab, APNS certificates. This involves just a three-step procedure. If you already have a corporate Apple ID, you can use that to sign in into Apple push notification portal, and you will download the vendor sign certificate, the CSR certificate from our product, and upload it in your APNS portal, and thereby which will generate a new certificate file and which we have to upload it in our product. So it's like you download certificate from our solution, upload it to the Apple push notification service, which will give you a verified or a signed certificate. You need to upload it back here. So once after this is done, it's like a two-way handshake. Once this is done, then you'll be eligible to add Apple devices into the management scope. This is mandatory for any MDM solution here because Apple doesn't let the administrator to just manage their own devices. You need to make sure this is coming from a trusted source. So you need to have the APNS certificates uploaded to your MDM solution. Once that is done, you can go to the devices section again. And for sending an email invitation, you can just go to enroll devices, Apple. You can choose iOS device here. And if you wish to send this invite directly to the users, you can just type the username here. And the users will see an email with this template. So they will have a link or a QR code to be scanned through which they can authenticate the application. So in case if you feel that the user is layman or you don't want to trouble the users for enrolling the devices, or if you have the devices on hand, you can still send the invite yourself. So you can choose this option by myself and click on next. So this invitation has been created. You will see, so in order to onboard the devices, you can either scan this QR code from the Apple iPhone, or you can just access this particular URL, which will prompt you to provide the OTP. That's how the device gets authenticated and gets into the manage section. So in case after sending an email invite, if the user haven't completed the enrollment procedure, then those type of requests will come under this section, under enrollment pending. So on the user end, so when you scan the QR code or when you access this enrollment URL, it prompts the users to download the MDM profile. So remember, for iOS, Windows, or Chromebooks, you don't need to download or you don't need to install the application. We just leverage the native OS client present on the device itself. So we just ask you to install the MDM profile on the device. So you can just click on allow. The MDM profile will get downloaded. So it doesn't automatically install the profile, it just gets downloaded as the user or the admin who performs the enrollment has to verify by clicking on the profile downloaded option and make sure this is from the MDM profile and then click on install. So you have the options to install here, thereby making sure the remote management gets activated on the device. So this is how you can send an email invitation to the users, and the users can either scan the QR code or access the enrollment URL and complete the procedure. So this is how this gets onboarded to your management scope. And especially to talk about this method, this invite are specific to individual users. So the same invite cannot be used by multiple users again. And also the OTP expires in 7 days. If I go back and show you under the enrollment pending section, you will see the enrollment request expires in 7 days and notifications likewise. So in order to overcome this particular method, that is why we have the self-enrollment, where the users can bring their own devices into the management scope. And for that, you can go to self-enrollment. You need to enable certain settings in order to make sure the users can bring their own devices to your MDM portal. And for the self-enrollment to work, you need to integrate your Active Directory with with our MDM solution. The Active Directory is mandatory because to authenticate the users who perform this enrollment. Because in email invite, either a QR code or an OTP will authenticate the source, but here under self-enrollment, any users can call this URL and register the devices within the MDM. So for that, you need to integrate the directory services within our MDM, and you can choose whether to allow the self-enrollment to all the users or only to selected group of users in your AD. So you can just choose the required AD groups to be allowed for self-enrollment. Along with that, you can also choose the number of devices which can be permitted for a particular user. Say a user can only enroll 3 devices using this method. And also as an admin, I would like to get notified when any users in my organization adds the MDM profile on their devices. So I can just specify my email address over here. And once this is done, the users, irrespective of the operating systems, either an iOS or an Android or Windows users, can just call this particular URL from the mobile browser, which will automatically download the MDM app. Thereby, the user just have to provide their AD username and password to complete the enrollment. And the advantages to talk about under the self-enrollment is you can automatically map certain devices to certain groups. Grouping helps you to define or distribute policies or applications so that when a new user adds their device using the self-enrollment, and if it belongs to any of these departments, say when an Apple user registered the devices through self-enrollment, I want to map them to customer relationship department. So automatically whatever app or whatever policy is being deployed to this particular group will apply to this very same user. However, let's see how the UI looks like on the user end when they perform the self-enrollment. You can publish this particular URL in forums, or you can distribute or send it in email notifications to all the employees. So they can just access this particular URL, and which will automatically download the MDM app on the device. Upon download, you can either choose whether it is a cloud MDM or an on-premise, fill up those details of your MDM server, and you need to authenticate just by providing the AD username and password. So once the device is authenticated, it automatically starts to install the MDM profile, and it can just activate. So this is how the users can bring their own devices into the management scope. So remember, whatever you see on the top section is for the devices which are already in use, either by sending an email invitation or self-enrollment. This is applicable for the devices which are already in use, and this also create a corporate container or a corporate space within the device. Now we shall see how we can onboard the new devices. And for a new device, we cannot follow the same procedures like going with self-enrollment or making the administrator or the user to provide their AD details. That is why we have the automated enrollment. For Apple, we call Apple Business Manager, and for Android, we have Zero Touch Enrollment. These two techniques, or say an enrollment over the air. So you don't necessarily need to have the devices on hand, but still you can provision the MDM application or the MDM profile on the devices over the air. So that is what I'm going to show you now. And the benefits of doing the automated enrollment or provisioning the devices via device owner or supervision mode helps you to silently install application on the device. And also you can lock down the devices with certain applications alone. So apart from this, the users will not be able to unlock or install any other applications. So you have an option to silently install apps. At the same time, you can also lock down the devices with certain applications alone. And you'll also be able to manage or control the OS updates when you onboard the devices through these methods. Say, for an example, if you wish to delay the update when Apple or Google releases an update, I don't want to immediately upgrade all my devices. I want to monitor for 3 days, and only then I'm going to approve it for the production environment. Then you do have an option to do such configurations when you onboard the devices through this particular method. Another benefit is you have a full control over the profiles and configuration. There are certain restrictions which you can apply on the BAOD devices. Say for an example, if it's an Android device, and if you wish to restrict camera, it's not possible when you add the device through email or self-enrollment, because there are certain applications, let's say even FaceTime for iOS. So you'll not be able to restrict FaceTime or camera applications when the device has been onboarded through email invite. But at the same case, if it has been added through the administrative mode of enrollments like Apple Business Manager or zero touch enrollment or other ways of enrollment, which we'll discuss in the upcoming slides, you have the complete control over the devices. And as a prerequisite to automate the enrollment, you need to have an Apple or a Google account. At least one account is mandatory, and the device has to be purchased either directly from the vendor or from the authorized resellers. And let's see the automated enrollment workflow. So first, you need to integrate the ABM or zero-touch portals with your MDM server, and then add the devices to the ABM or Google zero-touch portals through which you can distribute and register the devices. This is the simple workflow for onboarding your devices through automated enrollment. So let me show you how you can integrate your MDM with Apple Business Manager and how we can enroll the device over the air. So you can just go to the enrollment section. You have Apple enrollment here, and there are 5 simple steps which you need to follow to integrate your MDM with ABM. So first, you need to download the public key from our MDM, and if you don't have an Apple Business Manager account, you can just click on the sign up section, which prompts you to provide your company details, and you can create a corporate ABM account. Using that, you need to sign in and go to Settings tab, Device Management. This is how the ABM portal looks like. So using your corporate Apple ID, you can log in and go to Settings tab, Device Management Settings, and you can add your MDM server. You can give a name to your MDM server. Say I'll give the name as Zilker SFO MDM, and file which we have downloaded from our MDM has to be uploaded here. Once that is done, once you click on save, your MDM server gets added to the Apple Business Manager portal. That way, you just need to download the S token and upload it back in our product. This is like a two-way handshake. You download the PM file from our product, upload it in the ABM section, and then download the S token, upload back to our MDM console. Once that is done, you can configure certain settings like, say, as soon as if it is a new device, we are just discussing about the new device, how we can onboard them into the MDM. So when it comes to that way, when you just open the box, when you switch on the device, it prompts the users to configure Apple ID or Touch IDs or certain configuration settings like privacy. So you can just skip all these configurations by enabling this option. At the same time, say if you wish to allow the users to assign their own AD users to the device, you can either click on yes. If not, you can choose no. And the only way to assign a user to a device will be from our MDM product. So once that is done, you can see the server information's been added to your MDM console this way. And you can also see what are the devices been added and how many devices are pending from enrollment. So you will get the count updated based on the enrollment. So after integrating your MDM server with ABM portal, now comes activating the device or provisioning the devices over the air. So for that, in case if you're purchasing the devices from an authorized reseller or from the Apple vendors directly, you can mention the Apple customer number or Apple or DP reseller's ID over here. The main advantages of providing this information is, say when you purchase devices from the resellers, the resellers can upload their information to the Apple notification services, and through which the device will automatically get registered with your MDM. In future, even if you purchase 100 more devices, and all the 100 devices, just by turning it on, will have the MDM profile automatically applied on the device. So here, even there is no involvement to assign the users or a device to MDM. That is one advantage you will have when you provide the reseller's ID or Apple customer numbers here. And in case if you already have the devices, or if the devices are not being purchased, from the reason is you can just go to device assignment tab and update or provide the serial number of your devices and then assign it to your MDM server. In case if you have more number of devices, you can even do the CSV import with just the serial number of the devices and then choose assign to server and choose the appropriate MDM server you have added. So once you click on done, the device assignment will get completed and the device will be under the manage under the stage section. So as an admin, you just need to go assign the users to complete the enrollment. So this is what I've said in the beginning. So there are three sections which you will see under the devices: managed, stage, and enrollment pending. So the devices which has been assigned from the ABM accounts will list under the stage section. You just need to go and assign users. So once the user is assigned to a device, then the device will be moved to the manage section. So this is how you can onboard your devices to MDM portal from Apple Business Manager. Now on the device end, when you turn on the device, and it just prompts you to provide the country and language and configures you to connect to a Wi-Fi. Once that is done, using the serial number, it automatically verifies with the service. And if the serial number matches with your ABM account, automatically the users will see a screen like this. And there will not be option to skip the settings. The users have to click on next, and which will install the MDM profile on the device. And the best part of doing an enrollment through this method is even if the users do a factory reset multiple times, still the device will come back and it will have the MDM profile installed on these devices. So this is one way where you cannot make sure where you can restrict the users from uninstalling the MDM profile on the devices. So in case if you have any questions or doubts related to the personal enrollment or the automated enrollment through Apple Business Manager, please feel free to post them in the chat section. Our expert panel can help you then and there. So now let us see about the zero-touch enrollment for Android devices, how you can provision or install the MDM app on Android devices over the air. So this will be the same procedure where you need to integrate the Google portals with your MDM account, and you need to assign the devices using the serial number. Just the portals and the integration procedures will be different. Like how you add your MDM server in ABM, here you need to add the configuration information. So Zero Touch Portal, go to Configurations tab, and you can click on the plus symbol here, which prompts you to provide the configuration name and the DPC token and the DPC extra information, which you can very well see from our MDM console itself. So if I just go to Enrollment tab, under Android, just see Zero Touch Enrollment. You'll be able to see those informations. You can just copy the DPC extras here from here and just upload those informations over your Google portal. Once the configuration is created, then you can go to the devices section and start mapping these devices to the appropriate configuration which you have created. And you can also choose whether to activate the devices only by the admin or even from the user. You can just make sure you map these devices to the appropriate groups. So once the device has been assigned from the Google portal, the user just needs to turn on the device, and which will automatically verify and install the MDM app on the device. The user just needs to click on accept and continue. And once that is done, the device will be configured with our MDM. And again, to complete the enrollment, you just need to go to device section. Under stage tab, you can just assign the users to a device. In case if you have allowed the users to configure the user accounts, users can themselves activate the device from their end. So let's quickly see what are the enrollment techniques which we discussed and which I demonstrated in today's training. So first, I showed about the devices which are already in use. So you can either go with email invite or self-enrollment. And for the new devices, or to provision the devices as a device owner or supervise the device, you need to do a factory reset. If not, it needs to be a fresh new device. And you can follow these enrollment procedures. There are a lot of different enrollment procedures which we have with the product. And ABM and zero-day enrollment is the one which you can provision them over the app. And for Windows, we have autopilot enrollment, which is again an enrollment over the app, which our team will help you on the third week of the training program. And in case if you wish to discuss more about the enrollment, you can always contact us in the chat section where our panel team can help you to schedule a one-on-one demonstration with our technician. And now, once after the devices are added or been added to the manage section, now in order to apply certain corporate policies or security provisioning, how and where you can do such activities in our MDM product. So that's what I'm going to show you first. Say my organizational security team have enforced the IT admins to configure a policy for passcodes on all the mobile users. And even as an admin, I have to distribute email accounts to the users. So how I can do that? For that, I'll go to the device management tab. So here is where you can group your devices based on the requirements. I've created groups for HR department, finance department. This helps me to select the appropriate groups and distribute documents and policies which I want to apply to the entire group or the department itself. If not, I have to go to individual devices and do it. But however, once after the devices are added, and to provision them with certain security policies based on the company norms, I'll just create a profile. First, let me show you for an iOS device. So I'll go to the profile section under create profile. I'll click on Apple. And let's say my security team have requested me to enforce a policy with at least 6-digit passcode. The minimum passcode length has to be 6-digit, not just 4. Then I'll select the minimum passcode length to be 6. And even if certain organization demands to have or include a special characters, I can just add that as well. And also, if any users tries to consecutively enter a wrong password for more than 5 times, the device has to do a factory reset. Say the device has reached the wrong hands and we don't want to lose the corporate data, then you can also configure such options in the passcode policy here. And also for safety reasons, we request the users to change the password every 2 minutes. So I'll also choose the maximum passcode age to be 60 days. So that is how I'll create a policy for the passcode, and I'll save the profile. And you need to publish the profile in order to distribute to your users or groups. So for that, I'll just go to device management tab again. And before I distribute this profile to all my production environment, I'll just want to test this with my own testing device. So I'll just select that particular device and apply this profile. So I can choose the appropriate profile I've created and distribute. So this is how I can create a profile from our device management tab and test it with one single device. Once that is done, if the test is fine, then I can go to group section, select the appropriate groups. Let's say I'm going to enforce this passcode policy to all my users. Then I can select the group and apply the profile. So this is one just example where you can onboard the devices and then apply certain payloads or profile or configurations to your requirement. And the best part is, even when you add the devices to a particular group, whatever configuration or whatever profile or application is distributed to that group will also get automatically applied to the newly added member in the group. So once after I publish the passcode profile, this is how the end user screen looks like. The end user has to configure the passcode based on the policy I have created. Like say it has to be a 6-digit passcode and at least one special character needs to be involved in the passcode policy. So unless the user configures a passcode with these requirements, the prompt will appear on the user screen. So along with the passcode policy, let's say I want to distribute Wi-Fi profiles to my users. So I can just mention the Wi-Fi SSID information here, and I can choose a security type. And just enter the password. And in case if this Wi-Fi is not being reachable by the users, I can even add another Wi-Fi configuration. And even when it comes to corporate Wi-Fi, if in case if you use a certificate or a TLS protocol for authentication, you can also mention those information. And if the user has to provide their own AD username or the username and password informations to get the Wi-Fi profile, you can just make use of the dynamic variables. So these are the ways which you can add multiple Wi-Fi profiles and distribute. And along with this, say since we are all working from home or remotely these days, in case if the user needs to have access to certain VPN for accessing the corporate data, you do have an option to configure VPN clients to your mobile devices. Let's say we use Cisco, and I can just use the appropriate VPN type here, and I'll just need to mention the VPN server name and IP address. And if the user has to use their own AD username and password to authenticate, I'll just use a dynamic variable. So when I mention about this dynamic variable, it automatically pre-fills the usernames which are mapped to the devices, let's say. So when I go to devices, you can see for this particular device type, this is the username, and automatically the username will get mapped at the same way. Even when you deploy an Exchange Active Sync, the email address mapped to the devices or to the users will automatically be pre-filled. So I can just add your VPN server informations, and even we support per app VPN for iOS devices too. So you can just choose whenever, say, when the users use or open Dropbox, then automatically the app has to connect to a particular Wi-Fi. Then I have the options to enable that as well. So these are certain examples I'm just demonstrating on the training program. And in case if you wish to use other payloads like say Exchange Active Sync, you can configure whether you use an on-premise or an online Exchange Office 365 server, you can just update those information. Or even if you wish to restrict access to certain websites, you can blacklist such websites over here. So whichever payload you go, you always have the help article at the right-hand side. You can just click on help article, which completely describe about that particular payload. And you also see what are the configuration parameters you have to update within the payload. And remember, whenever you jump from one payload to another, you must always save the settings. Only then you can publish. So once after I have configured a basic template profile, I can just publish this. And remember, I will just go ahead to a device, test this on my devices first. And once the profiles are working fine, then I'll go to groups and devices section. I'll select the appropriate groups. Then I'll go to distribute, create a profile. So this is how I can provision the devices which are added to my MDM section. And now let's see the scenario of how we can secure the corporate data on the personal devices, on the BAOD devices. So remember, when you add a device through email invite or self-enrollment, it creates a corporate workspace within the device. So how you can secure the data within the device. And in order to explain how to secure the data, you must know what are the different ways a data breach can happen. First is usual where the data can be transferred from one device to another through AirDrop or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. So how you can enforce a security layer or a restriction on this type of breaches. Second, and there are possibilities where the app informations can also be stored on the cloud services like this, how you can restrict that as well. And between the application on the personal device itself. Say I want to restrict the email attachment from the corporate email app to the personal application should also be restricted. So that is what I'm going to show you now. So when it comes to an iOS device, you'll not be able to see any difference between a personal application or a corporate application if it has been added through email invite or self-enrollment. But in the same case for Android, you will see a work patch icon. So these are the list of applications which has been distributed from our MDM product. So our aim here is to save the data or the information available on the work application or in the workspace. So as you can see, even to restrict the data sharing within the iOS or Android devices, we have profiles. And first, let me show you how we can secure for an Apple device. So we have a separate tab called restrictions here. And to begin with, say, if I want to restrict the data sharing from the device to another device, I'll just go and disable add drop. At the same time, even if I want to restrict the users from taking screenshots or screen recording, I do have an option to enable that restriction too. So this is one thing which I can enable first. And moving forward, say even if I wish to restrict the data sharing from the managed application to an unmanaged app, meaning whatever application is being distributed from our MDM shouldn't be transferred or copied to a personal mobile application. So when you can also enforce this restriction. Likewise, even sharing the personal details to unmanaged or a corporate application can also be restricted. We have a separate profile here. And along with that, say if you wish to restrict the devices to be connected or paired with iTunes or USB connection, you can restrict that. And allow the USB connection even when the device is locked. Say if the device is lost or stolen, but still you don't want to lose the corporate information by connecting to a MacBook, you can still restrict such options here. And application level restrictions. And we have a separate payload or a tab where you can apply the required restrictions and save the profile. So this is for the Apple. And for Android devices, you can either go to profiles. You can create a profile from here. If not, we do have the quick options over here. You can just click on the arrow button here and choose create Android profile. And for Android devices, same way, you can just restrict the screen recording or video recording on the device. And for Bluetooth, you can just go to device connectivity section, choose ways off, or even Bluetooth pairing can be restricted. Network and roaming, say the device should be connected only to certain Wi-Fi profiles. You have an option to configure that. And application level restriction, security from sharing data. So likewise, you can create different profiles for Android and iOS, and you'll be able to distribute to your devices. And for Android, by default, the restriction will be applied to share the data from the work application to to the personal application. So this is how I can secure the data within the personal devices. So thereby applying certain restriction. And once after the profile is created, I can just distribute the profile to my required groups or devices. So before I publish the profile, say if a user tries to download the attachment or open the attachment which has been distributed from my corporate email, they will have an options like they can add drop the document. They can even open this very same document on personal applications like Dropbox or iBooks. But after applying the profile restrictions, the users will only see an option that is they can only open the document within the corporate apps like Office or MDM. So this is how you can secure your corporate information of the data within the personal devices. The last scenario, we can see how we can secure the corporate emails from unauthorized devices. So how we can make sure only the devices which are registered within the MDM should only get the exchange emails or corporate emails. So for that, we have the conditional exchange access integration within the MDM. And this integration helps you to monitor the devices which access your Exchange server. And this is helpful for the BIOD devices. So if the user uses the personal devices, and only if they have the MDM application installed on such devices can access to your corporate email. And for this to work, you need to integrate your Exchange server with our MDM and create a conditional exchange policy. So you will have an option under the device management, conditional exchange access. And here you can choose either an Office 365 or an on-premise server. You can just fill up those information. And after updating these details, you can just create a conditional exchange access policy. This policy helps you to configure a grace period even. Say, once after the policy is created, when you choose all users, the users who have the MDM app installed or those devices which are registered with our MDM can only get access to your corporate email account or the Exchange email account. And you can either apply this policy to all the users or all the employees in your organization. If not, you can choose only the selected AD groups and their users. And you do have an option to give a grace period just to make sure if I choose a grace period for 3 days, so the users will be able to access the corporate emails for 3 days without enrolling them within the MDM. And they will also get a notification from their Exchange on the device with the enrollment URL. This is the self-enrollment URL. The user has to enroll the devices in order to get the corporate email. So if the user doesn't add the MDM app or enroll the devices within the portal, then the corporate email accounts will not be active on the device after 3 days. So this is how I can create or integrate your Exchange server with the MDM and create a policy. And you'll also get to see the devices which are in grace period or the devices which lost the restriction. So in order to get the corporate accounts back, they need to install the MDM profile. So you get to see those informations even under the device details tab. All right, so before I've discussed how you can onboard your devices and how we can configure certain profiles based on the requirement and how we can secure the data and also email within our MDM. So in case if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. Our team can help you. Now I'm going to share some real-time scenarios which I have faced in the support experiences. So there are customers who would ask, is it possible to enroll devices which are not purchased from authorized resellers? Will I get the same advantage like the users, even though if they do a factory reset, the device still have the MDM profile? Or say I want to silently install application or lock down the devices with certain application? Yes, even if it has not been purchased from resellers, they can still add the devices through Apple Configurator. And you also have an option to add the devices to device enrollment program when you provision them through Apple Configurator. So for that, you can just go to Enrollment tab. You have Apple Configurator option over here. And you can just follow the on-screen instruction. You can either click on configuration steps, which gives you the picture representation. What are the steps you need to do it on your MacBook? Or you can just click on how it works and watch the video article too. But in order to provision them through Apple Configurator, you need to necessarily have the devices on hand. So you need to physically connect your Apple iPhones or iPad to your MacBook and provision them as a supervised mode. And second scenario is I want to leverage the benefits of zero-touch enrollment, more or less same for Android devices. Say if these devices are not supported, how do I enroll? So for Android, we have EMM token where you can scan the QR code to register the devices with admin mode. So when you say it has to be a new device or the device has to be done a factory reset. So once after that is done, so the user, when you turn on the device, it asks you to connect to a Wi-Fi and which takes you to the Google account activation page. So here you need to mention our MDM TPC token, the device policy controller token, which is AFW/MEMDM. So it is nothing but Android forward /ManageEngine mobile device management. So when you provide this code and click on next, it automatically downloads the MDM profile, and you can just scan the QR code for registration. And if you have Android devices over 9.0 and above, it's even more simple. Either a new device or a factory reset device, you just need to tap the screen 6 times. So this is how it looks like when you turn on the device. Just need to click or tap the screen 6 times, which will open another code scanner, and scanning this QR code will register the device within our MDM portal. So there are, whatever you see under this division, under Apple or Android, these are for provisioning them as a device owner. So whatever you see on the top, like email invite or self-enrollment, it is for behavior devices where it will create a corporate container on the device. And this is especially for the devices which are already in use. But for a fresh device or a device which needs to be provisioned as an admin mode, need to be a new phone, or you have to factory reset the device and follow these procedures. And the third scenario. So what happens when two contradictory profiles are applied to a device? It varies on, or it depends on the type of operating systems you deploy to. Say, first you have disabled camera and applied to an iOS device. And when you create another profile with a lot of the restrictions, and by mistake, if you have enabled camera and deployed, the most stringent policy will get overwritten for an iOS. So still the camera will be disabled even though you apply a new profile which enables it, which has the option enable. But for Android, the latest profile will get as precedent. So even though you have restricted camera in the first profile, and now or later on, if you deploy a new profile with camera access enabled, the users will be able to take pictures, or they will be able to use the camera functionality. But for iOS, it validates the most stringent policies and it applies to the iOS devices. And fourth scenario is how can we ensure the users connect to the Wi-Fi which is distributed only through MDM? Say once after this lockdown, if the two users are has to connect it only to the corporate Wi-Fi within the office, then we do have a profile for that. So I can just go to create profile. You can choose iOS profile. It is available for both iOS and Android. So you can just create a profile, and under restriction, under network and roaming, we have the option connect to Wi-Fi only which has been distributed through MDM. And if you're going to apply this particular settings, make sure you have already created a profile with certain Wi-Fi configuration and distributed to the devices. Because after enabling it, if the devices are not connected to any of the corporate Wi-Fi, then you might lose connection between the device and server. So there is a possibility where you can also make sure the device connects only to certain Wi-Fi profile which you distribute. Another scenario, so where I can prevent the sensitive corporate content on the notification. So even when the devices are locked, there are possibilities where the users can read the informations or in the notification screen itself. So how to restrict such settings? So for that, we have another option under profile. You can go to restriction under security. So you have lock screen notification preference. So when you choose this hide sensitive content and distribute, the users will still get a notification saying that there is a new email on Outlook, or there is a file shared in Dropbox likewise, but they'll not be able to see what file or which user have distributed likewise. Only those who have access within the corporate space can read those information. So these are the list of scenarios which I felt like sharing it to the audience. In case if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. And we have come to the end of the training program. So please rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is the best. And since we're all connected on the social media and social platform now, so if you like our training program, please spread a word with hashtag mobile device manager please or / ManageEngine training program. And I request each and everyone to take care of yourself and the families. Let's stay together and let's stay safe. And the next session will be on June 2nd. We'll have two sessions, one in the morning, 6:30 GMT, another session at 11:30 Eastern Time, where we will see about the app management and how we can lock down the devices with certain application, or how we can test and approve your own enterprise application using a product, and also certain security settings to your devices. And I thank each and everyone for joining the webinar in the situation. And take care and stay safe. Thank you all.